You are watching the LemonAid Podcast with Amar Law Group. Join us as we unlock the secrets and expert tips you need to know now.
Hello and welcome to the LemonAid Podcast with experienced attorney Shalev Amar. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and on this podcast, we discuss lemon laws. Shalev, thanks so much for being here. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the lemon laws for recreational vehicles and boats. And we're going to talk about how it differs. So how does the lemon law apply to recreational vehicles, or RVs, and boats compared to cars?
Well, unfortunately, most lemon laws are geared towards motor vehicles that are designed primarily for transportation on public highways that tend to be lighter weight vehicles, like under 10,000 pounds. So there's some variation by state, but the majority of states in our country do not cover motorhomes or RVs, travel trailers, fifth wheels, under their state lemon laws. And as far as I know, when it comes to boats, there's only one state in the country where the state lemon law applies to boats, and that is California. Now, it doesn't mean you have no recourse if the state lemon law doesn't apply to your motorhome or trailer or boat, or for that matter, off-road vehicle, because there is basically a federal lemon law called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act that applies to all warranted consumer products that are above $25. So you're not without remedy, but it's just the remedies are a little bit more challenging, because what also applies are state versions of the Uniform Commercial Code, in particular revocation of acceptance. The challenge with revocation, which just basically means revoking the deal, unwinding the sales contract, is that it's a much more difficult claim to prove than a state lemon law claim, because it has more elements, more requirements. And that's actually one of the reasons why state lemon laws were passed, is because the Uniform Commercial Code was not properly protecting consumers. There's another area of law that can help manufacturers, not manufacturers that is, but products that are manufactured that are not traditional vehicles, like motorhomes, trailers, off-road vehicles, boats. And that is what is called common law. Common law just means judicial decisions that are handed down in particular states. And most states have what's called warranty common law, which is judicial opinions setting standards for what's a breach of warranty. So that can be used as well. And in states where RVs are covered, I can tell you that I don't know of any states where RVs that are not motorhomes are covered. So what we're talking about is travel trailers, fifth wheels, campers. There is no state lemon law that applies to those other than California, just like with boats. So when a state lemon law does apply to an RV, it's typically to the chassis portion of the vehicle, kind of the powertrain, the part that makes it go. It does not apply to the coach portion of the vehicle, the house portion of it. So it doesn't apply to the beds, the couches, the house air conditioning in the back.
The appliances, kitchen appliances.
Yeah, the appliances, the water tanks. It doesn't apply to any of that, but it can apply to the transmission, to the suspension, to the engine, to the steering, to the brakes. And so, as far as I know, most lemon laws do apply to the chassis portion. I believe there might be a couple that also apply to the coach portion, but again, it's a very tiny minority of states. On top of that, when it comes to cars, typically the presumption under the lemon law is less than it would be for a motorhome. So, for example, if it's 30 days out of service is considered presumed unreasonable for a car, it's typically 60 days for a motorhome, just because it's a more complex product. You're basically putting a house on wheels. And so the lemon laws that do apply to motorhomes, they typically have a higher threshold for what is considered to be an unreasonable repair history.
Okay. Yeah. What other unique challenges do consumers face, when dealing with RV? Well, I should say RV or boat defects, but maybe we stick with RV since there's only one state that does boat defects. But what are some of the challenges that people, face when trying to deal with problems under the lemon law?
Well, I would say the other challenge with RVs is that there tends to be multiple warrantors for the product, multiple manufacturers. There's the end manufacturer that puts everything together, but then there can also be a chassis manufacturer. There could be an engine manufacturer. There could be a manufacturer of the slide out, which is when you're parked, a slide out expands the living portion of the motorhome to give you more space. There could be a different manufacturer for the water tanks. There could be a different manufacturer for the electrical system and also for certain appliances like refrigerator, microwave, things of that nature. And so that adds many layers of complexity, as you can imagine, if you have so many manufacturers, so many different warranties. Now, there's sometimes legal arguments that could be made that the end manufacturer should be responsible for the other components of the vehicle, even if they have a different manufacturer, a different warrantor. But that's a legal argument, and that could go either way. But yeah, the biggest challenge is that you have multiple warranties, multiple manufacturers. Now, another challenge when it comes to RVs is that they can have all kinds of weird exclusions and terms in their warranties that car warranties typically don't have. Like, for example, they can have what's called a foreign selection clause, which means if you bring a claim, it has to be brought in another state, typically the state where the manufacturer resides. So a lot of manufacturers of RVs are in Indiana, for example. Some are in Oregon, some are in California. But that, if you live, say, in Washington, it can be pretty onerous to have to go to Indiana to bring a claim. And so sometimes you can argue against those form selection clauses. We'll get into disclaimers in a little bit, but it's really up to the judge in that situation if you end up in a court matter. Luckily, the vast majority of motorhome cases, if you have a competent attorney, can be resolved out of court. So you don't have to worry about that issue. But the other challenge with RV warranties, and this applies to boat warranties as well, and also to off-road vehicles, they have a lot of disclaimers. So one of the disclaimers, for example, is we're not responsible for any of these other parts or components that are manufactured by other companies. Another disclaimer can be if you reside too long in the motorhome because it's really meant to be for temporary use, not for full-time use, that could void your warranty.
So if someone's like kind of living in their motorhome and
Correct.
Instead of using it as a vacation,
correct,
vehicle, okay.
Correct. And that can kind of be a gray area.
Sure.
That is, but yeah, that could be another exclusion.
I've known people who are like, retire and buy one of those gigantic, like bus looking things, and they just travel around in that thing. So would that change their warranty in that scenario because of the fact that they're basically living in it maybe half the year?
Potentially.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's very case by case. It at least gives them the argument.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is very unfair.
It does seem unfair, especially with how much those things cost.
I mean, speaking of retired people, there's people who will sell everything, don't even have a home anymore, and they'll buy this motorhome. They just want to travel in their golden years, see the country. They're constantly stuck in motels while their motorhome's in a repair shop. I mean, it's awful. I'd say another disclaimer that they have is if the RV is used for any type of business use, there could be a disclaimer on that, and a variety of just like minor, small idiosyncratic things. So that's definitely a huge downside to purchasing a motorhome.
What are some examples of breach of warranty cases involving RVs and boats, and how are they resolved?
Well, the analysis is actually very similar to the analysis that you make when evaluating a potential lemon law claim for a motor vehicle, and that is the repair history unreasonable? Now, our internal standard for RVs is we believe that if an RV is in the repair shop at least 45 or more days, that's unreasonable. And as far as repairs, if it's a substantial repair issue, we'd like to see at least 4 more repairs for that same issue when it comes to RVs. There's also the challenge of whose warranty are those repairs under? And so typically we'd like to see at least 4 or more repairs under that specific warranty. If it's a subcomponent warranty, then it could be 3 or more repairs. But when it comes to the end manufacturer, the entire vehicle, we like to see 4 more repairs for the same issue. And so the threshold that we have is higher than we have for motor vehicles, because for cars across the board, our internal threshold is 3 or more repairs for the same substantial issue under warranty, or 25, I would say, well, it depends on if it's substantial. If it's very substantial, 25 or more days. If it's less substantial than 30 or more days in the repair shop. And so motorhomes can be more challenging. For example, oftentimes when we're dealing with an RV company, they'll just say, look, we're not responsible for this defect. X manufacturer is responsible for this defect. So we're not going to compensate based on that. Our counter to that is, well, we're also asserting a revocation claim. And again, that's going to unwind the deal. Now, typically revocation has to be against the seller of the vehicle because of a legal concept called contractual privity. What privity means is just a direct contractual relationship, like buyer-seller. The manufacturer, they didn't sell the vehicle to the consumer. Their selling dealership did, independent entity. So you have to bring the revocation claim against the selling dealer. But they're basically a straw man in this situation because virtually all manufacturers have what are called indemnification agreements with their selling dealerships, where they agree to indemnify or defend the selling dealer for revocation or warranty claims or implied warranty claims. And so it's just basically a way to get additional negotiating leverage against the manufacturer, because under revocation, guess what? It applies to the entire product. It doesn't matter if there's different warranties. So that's one counter argument that we make when we represent RV clients. The other argument that we make is, look, you are selling one product. And I'm not picking on any particular company, but let's say it's a Fleetwood, or let's say it's a Winnebago, or Tiffin. There's a variety of manufacturers.
Yeah.
In your marketing, you say, hey, buy a Winnie. You're not saying, hey, buy this big box of parts. We're not responsible for any of the parts within this product, even though we're selling you a Winnebago, a Fleetwood, a Tiffin, whatever. So come on, that gets to be kind of ridiculous. And so we argued like, hey, you sold one product, you're responsible for this entire product.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think it's a strong argument. And look, judges can rule both ways on that argument, but it's at least something that we use as leverage in negotiation. Like, hey, if a judge buys this argument, you're going to be in very hot water, so you may as well just settle out of court.
Right.
There are challenges with RVs, like I said, with multiple components, multiple warrantors, all kinds of crazy disclaimers, form selection clauses. But if you have an attorney who knows what he or she is doing, or is a member of a reputable firm, they tend to play ball and settle because they don't want to go against somebody who could potentially defeat them in court, who understands the law, who knows how to respond to their variety of arguments.
And what advice would you give to any consumers who might be listening, looking to purchase an RV or boat to protect themselves under warranty law?
One of the biggest things I tell people is watch out what you sign. Typically in these sales scenarios, the dealership will just plop down a large stack of documents. And they'll just be like, oh, this is that, sign here, this is that, sign here. Do not sign anything without reading it. I know that can end up...
Guilty of that.
Yeah, I know that can make the transaction take way longer, maybe even a couple of hours longer. But especially with the motorhome, you're potentially purchasing $150K, a $200K, maybe even a $300,000, sometimes even a $500,000 product. Are you really going to put yourself in a situation where you're signing documents where then if you have problems, all of a sudden they'll wave this document in your face? Well, you signed this. You acknowledge that there's basically nothing you can ever do against us, or there's all kinds of crazy exclusions that you agreed to, when none of that was explained to you when you signed.
But you signed.
I've been representing motorhome clients for 20 years, and not one time have they told me that some kind of disclaimer document or warranty registration document that they signed meant that they limited their rights in all these major ways. So be careful, especially with the warranty registration. Oftentimes, the warranty registration will just say in fine print, oh, this means you agree to everything that's in the warranty. where the warranty could be 4 or 5 pages.
Right. Yeah.
Don't sign it unless you've read the warranty and you're fine with all those terms. If you're not fine with all those terms, you can be like, hey, I'm not okay with this. If you want to sell this product, it's not going to be subject to these disclaimers, or else no deal. And so sometimes you have to walk away. The strongest negotiating position when you're dealing with a seller is to walk away. Take your business elsewhere if they're not going to be fair with you.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Because you're talking about buying something that's like the same price as a lot of people spend on a house, and it's you don't want to go into that signing a bunch of things like that are waiving rights that you don't realize you're waiving.
That's right, and it's it's really unfair. Why should you agree that you have to go to the manufacturer's backyard in Indiana if you have a problem and they refuse to settle with you? It doesn't matter how many times something's been repaired. Oh, well, even though we put this product together and installed everything in the product, well, this actually has a different warranty. Oh, well, tough for you. You try to go after this other random company. Now you have to go after, 5 different companies. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, thank you for tuning in to the LemonAid Podcast with experienced attorney Shalev Amar. Shalev, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they have questions or potentially want to talk about a claim?
Well, our firm, we mainly operate in the southwest of the country, although we are looking to expand. It just takes time, to hire people and such. So currently, other than one outlier state in Nebraska, I would say if you're in the southwest, let's start with Arizona. It's ArizonaLemonLawAdvocates.com. Just visit our website for more information about your rights and whether your potential vehicle claims are ripe for action or not. I would say in California, it's spelled slightly different. It's CaliforniaLemonLawAdvocate.com. It doesn't have the S. In Washington, it's WashingtonLemonLawAdvocates.com. In Oregon, it's OregonLemonLawAdvocates.com. In Utah, it's UtahLemonLawAdvocates.com. In Nevada, it's actually a slightly different website. It's NevadaLemonLaw.info. In Colorado, it's ColoradoLemonLawAdvocates.com. And then that one outlier state that we have in Nebraska, it's NebraskaLemonLawAdvocates.com. And in the near future, we are looking to expand to New Mexico and to Minnesota. So by the time you're watching this, we may be up there. And if that's the case, check out New Mexico LemonLawAdvocates.com and Minnesota LemonLawAdvocates.com.
You guys are growing. I love it. That's great. Good for you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shalev, for being here. And thank you all for listening. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments. Shalev, until next time. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and comment below.